Hello, welcome to this video on monopolistic or imperfect competition. So in this video we're going to look at the characteristics of a monopolistically competitive market and also illustrate monopolistic competition. Monopolistic is quite a difficult word to pronounce, I'll grant you, so you might want to just practice it under your breath if no one's listening. So as we said earlier, this is part of a series of videos looking at different market structures, how firms behave in different types of market. And we have a scale from perfectly competitive all the way down to monopoly. Today we're going to look at monopolistic competition, sometimes known as imperfect competition, which is the next one along from perfect competition. So a little bit of background on imperfect competition or monopolistic competition, it's sometimes interchangeable, those two words. And this is quite a good one for a good example of describing many real-world markets. It's similar to perfect competition, with the main difference being that products here are slightly differentiated. So here are characteristics of a monopolistically competitive market. Again, we have a large number of buyers and of small buyers and sellers. There are no costs to entry and exit. The products are similar, but the key difference here is that they are differentiated. Buyers and sellers again have perfect knowledge. Firms have a small impact on each other, but they're not particularly interdependent. So firms have some price setting power due to the fact their products are slightly different. So I can raise my price, but because my product is slightly different, I don't lose all my customers. My demand curve is not perfectly price elastic. The demand curve here is downward sloping. Again, we assume that these businesses are profit maximizers. So these might be some examples of businesses that we might say are in monopolistic competition. So sandwich bars and coffee shops are a good example. Relatively easy to set up a sandwich bar, kind of just rent a small premises, buy some ingredients. Are my sandwiches similar to the competitors? They're similar, but maybe slightly different. I can have slightly different fillings. Slightly different quality to my product, and so maybe I can charge a slightly higher price than my rival and I won't lose customers. I have some price setting power. The decisions I make might have some effect on my competitors, but not really particularly. So the key assumption here is that we have slightly differentiated products. So how do we have product differentiation? Well, this little table here is quite good for explaining some ideas of how we might differentiate our products. So it might be things like features, warranty, the performance, the design, the relationship, the customer service that we provide alongside our product. So these are ways in which a business might generate distinguish its product from the competition. So what we mean here in this context, products are similar but differentiated in terms of a different packaging or color or design or so on. So we have a certain amount of market power, so we can raise price without losing all our customers. So we have a downward sloping demand curve. So we're not price takers here, we are to a certain degree price makers. Although again, the price elasticity of demand might still be quite price elastic. So how do we illustrate this? Well, we know we have marginal cost and average cost curves for a normal business. And here, rather than a horizontal average, perfectly elastic average revenue, we have a kind of more normal demand curve here. We have some ability to charge a higher price or a lower price, and that reflects itself in our output. So if this business is a profit maximizing business, we want to produce all those units up and as long as the addition to revenue, so marginal revenue, is greater than the marginal cost of those units. So our profit maximizing point is here. What does that mean in terms of price? It means that the business charges a price of P1, and we find the price from the average revenue curve. Now here it's making normal profit because at this level of output, the average cost is also the same. And so here we're including in our cost base, opportunity cost, so economic cost. So here the profit is the same as the average cost, we're making a normal profit. If we were to illustrate in the short run a business making supernormal profits, here is our cost base a little bit lower. We add in our demand curve. We know this is our profit maximizing point. and we go up to the average revenue curve to find our price. So we charge a price of P1, and here the average cost of each unit is C1. So the price outweighs the economic cost of each unit. So we're making supernormal profits. We can also, in the short run, illustrate a business making a loss. Here we've got quite a high cost base. We add in our average revenue curve. This would be our profit maximizing level of output. We go up to the AR curve to find our price. But here, unfortunately, the average costs are even higher than our price. So this business would be making a loss. So those positions are all possible in the short run. We can have a supernormal profit, we can have loss-making businesses or normal profits. Now, unlike Monopoly, there are no barriers to entry. So if we have supernormal profits for a business in the short run, this is going to act as a signal to other businesses. New producers are going to enter the market. This is going to increase supply in the industry as a whole, which is going to lower prices across the industry, lower prices that firms can charge, in effect reducing demand. So the demand curve for an individual firm is going to shift to the left. We're going to have less demand because we have all these new entrants coming into the market. So in the long run, supernormal profits will be competed away, and eventually we'll get to a situation when only normal profits can be made. And this will be because the demand curve will continue to move left until the price equals the average cost. Let's have a look at an example here. So if we imagine a situation here, initially this is our demand curve. And so the business is making a supernormal profit, the difference between P1 and C1 for this business. Now, if this was the case in the short run, we would expect firms to look to join this industry. So in the long run, we would have more firms in the market, an increase in supply, and so the prices that we could charge would fall. If the prices we could charge could fall, the impact will be this will move our average revenue curves and marginal revenue curves to the left. So this changes the situation for this particular business. Now the profit maximizing point is where MR2 equals MC, and if we look up, the price P2 is also the same as the average cost. So this particular firm is now experiencing in the long run normal profits. So a quick summary: in the short run, firms are making supernormal profits. Other firms will enter the market, reducing demand for existing firms and moving the firm towards normal profits. The opposite is also true. In the short run, if firms are making losses, firms will leave the market, which will be a reduction in supply, increasing the market price, and more demand for existing firms. So it would move them towards normal profits. Of course, in the short run, if they're making normal profits, then we'll just stay at normal profits. So here is our monopolistically competitive firm in long run equilibrium. We can see that profit maximizing, operating at Q1 level of output where MR equals MC, and the price P1 off the AR curve is the same here as the average cost. So this business is making normal profits, and that is a stable long run position. So what can we conclude about firms operating in monopolistic competition and efficiency? Well, prices, if you look back at your diagram, prices here are above the marginal cost. So firms in this industry are not allocatively efficient. Because we have a lot of firms in the market, we might not be able to fully exploit economies of scale. It's unlikely that we're going to be operating at the lowest average cost, and therefore unlikely to be productively efficient. And because we might be spending money on marketing and advertising, much of this spending might be wasteful, as many people argue, and so again it's unlikely that this business is going to be X efficient. There's likely to be some X inefficiency. We could be operating at a lower cost if we didn't have to spend so much on marketing and advertising our products to try and make them differentiated. So in this video we've looked at the characteristics of the monopolistically competitive market, sometimes called an imperfectly competitive market. And we've also looked at how we illustrate monopolistic competition, a firm under monopolistic competition. We've looked at how in the short run you can make supernormal profits or losses or normal profits, but in the long term they get competed away. All firms leave the industry and we move to a position of normal profits. That's it. Thank you very much for listening.